Let's talk about testing older GPUs. So, in a conversation that I had with another person on YouTube about this, I pointed out that you can't really answer the question of, because a lot of this stuff, a lot of these kind of videos that we're doing, this is the GPU I've been using the last couple of days. It's an R9 290X. A lot of what we do is kind of the shock value of, hey, we have this 12-year-old GPU. It's 2025. The GPU came out in 2013. Is it still useful? Hey, look at how cool this is that I can run Cyberpunk on a 12-year-old GPU. Okay. And the premise of the video is, see, it's still useful. But my opinion on the matter is, if you're juicing up the hell out of the GPU with a modern CPU, 14900K, 7800X3D, 9800X3D, 13900K, even, a GPU like this from 2013, even like an 11900K would be juicing the hell out of the thing. And I just don't think that it's not just that it wasn't used like that. It's that nobody is using it like that. You know what I'm saying? So I want my videos to be of use. I don't want them to just be an educational piece of, hey, look, see, if I pair a 13-year-old, 12-year-old GPU with my brand new CPU, look at it roll. Like, I don't want it to be that. I want these to be useful videos. I want somebody who receives, or like, let's say especially a lot of times, this isn't the only use case, and I can't usually speak to these prices, but in other parts of the world, for example, oftentimes hardware is not as readily available as it is where I am here in Seattle, Washington, right? Like, I can't quantify that with specific prices, but that's very often the case. And quite often, to me, an insane, GPU deal is like a $50 1080 Ti. Yes, I've got it. I'll grab it if you guys don't believe me. $50 for a EVGA FTW3. Guy was happy to hand it over knowing it would get some use too. It was kind of cool. But deals like that, I get around here. I picked up a 3070 Ti 2 weeks ago for $100. There are parts of the world where a good deal on a GPU is that, an R9 390X, I'm sorry, 290X for, say, $20, $30, $40. And there isn't really anything else. And actually, a lot of times when people pick up these kind of deals on GPUs, they're really opportunistic deals. I call them rogue deals, right? So totally unexpected deals on random items at an insane price. An R9 290X for $10, for example. You see deals like that, but there's no way to predict them. There's no way to plan a build based on those deals. You got to kind of just take them when they come. You can't say, oh, I want to do an R9 290X on, like this, a 4th gen. And, I think I can get a 4th gen board, chip, and RAM for $25. I can get an R9 290X. Like, you can get those items, but they're not predictable. And so people just randomly end up with this stuff because they end up with the deal that popped up and they want to know, hey, what games can I play? Or, for example, somebody's friend is offering them an R9 290X for $20. Is it worth $20? Well, I don't know. Can I play the games that I want to play? How well do they run? That's how I answer, is it worth $20? And so somebody is going to look up my videos and say, okay, I want to run Fortnite on an R9 290X. I saw my friend playing Cyberpunk. Maybe I can't play it as well as he is, but, can I play Cyberpunk on that R9 290X that my other buddy is offering me for $20, right? These are the questions that these videos are here to answer. These are not the questions that are being answered by videos where, people are looking at newer parts. That was part of the discussion was, well, is it valid to pair a 3050 with a 13900K, 14900K, 7800X3D, something like that? And I said, well, yes, it is, because people who buy new parts do different pairings than people who buy bottom of the basement parts. If you buy bottom of the barrel, let's call it e-waste parts like this. I mean, some of my stuff is nicer. I mean, this is kind of the cream of the crop for the most part of this generation of parts. So you might end up with a pre-built with a 4790 or something like that, but it's similar parts. People who are building new systems, they'll pair because they might not need, somebody building a new system, they might not need an insane CPU or they might not need an insane GPU. So they'll pair, say, a 4050, a 5050, whatever is new right now on the bottom end. They'll pair that with you know, an upper mid-range CPU, say like you know, a 9600X, something like that. But you wouldn't go out and pair, say, an R9 290X with, you know, an i7 13900K, right? You're not going to do that. You're going to pair it with another bottom of their barrel part. You're going to pair it with X99. You're going to pair it with 4790K. You're going to pair it with 6700K. Those are the parts that are relevant to this. And so I do the testing in that way. I disagree with channels like Hardware Unboxed, Gamers Nexus, those kind of channels where they just, they get the fastest CPU they possibly can in the goal, in the ultimate goal of being able to say, well, there's no CPU bottleneck here. It's entirely the GPU. I mean, I guess if all you're measuring is pure raw performance, I see it, but I don't see that as being particularly useful except to the people that are buying those top-end parts, right? Like, I want to pair, my goal is to show the experience, okay? I'm not benchmarking hardware, I'm benchmarking experience. I want you to see how it will be when you actually use it. Because at the end of the day, we can talk about raw performance numbers all day long, right? But the real question and the only thing that really matters is when I load my games up, how does it actually run? How does the GPU run in the real world? And in the case of, like I said, this R9 290X, the question is, how is it going to run paired with old, you're going to pair it with old flagship parts, right? You're going to pair it with Z97, X99, X299, maybe an 8700K. I don't really see somebody pairing this, not intentionally anyway, with anything newer than an 8700K. I just don't see that happening. So that's my goal when I do these kinds of demos with my hardware, is I want it to not only be interesting, I want it to be useful to you as well. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed joining me with this on this little discussion about how and why I test GPUs the way I do. And thanks for watching.